I was 5 minutes late, just 5 minutes. But in those 5 minutes, my whole world shifted again. When I pushed open the restaurant door that night, the soft golden lights hit my face, and the sound of laughter echoed across the room. My little girl, Amelia, sat at the head of the table surrounded by balloons and friends, her smile so wide, so full of light. But the moment her eyes met mine, that light dimmed. And then, before I could even set the gift down or whisper happy birthday, I heard her voice, clear and sharp, slicing through the air. "I hope he never comes back," she said, holding her glass of apple juice up high. "Because Mom's better off without him." The table laughed softly. Her friends clapped. But I just stood there, frozen, watching my daughter make a toast I wasn't supposed to hear. My heart clenched in a way I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. With certainty, with pain that wasn't hers to carry, pain that belonged to me. If you're listening to this right now, please, stay with me till the end. This isn't just about heartbreak. It's about the moment I realized my daughter had inherited the silence I thought I'd buried, and how it forced me to face everything I'd been running from. So, if you believe in second chances, not with someone else, but with yourself, like, subscribe, and stay till the end. Because this one still hurts to tell. I smiled as I walked closer to her, pretending I hadn't heard. She looked at me, guilt flickering in her eyes. "Mom," she said quietly, "you made it." Her voice trembled just slightly. I kissed her forehead and handed her the gift. "I wouldn't miss this for the world," I whispered. But deep down, I already had. I'd missed years, moments, tiny birthdays and school plays. Not because I didn't want to be there, but because I was too busy trying to fix a life that was already broken beyond repair. Her father left when she was 7. One morning, a note on the counter. A half-empty closet. No explanation that made sense. He said he needed time. But time turned into silence, and silence turned into absence, until absence became the only language he spoke. I told Amelia he was away for work. Then I told her he'd come back soon. Then I stopped telling her anything at all. I thought I was protecting her, but children always know. They feel the empty chair at dinner, the quiet at night, the way their mother's eyes swell with tears she never lets fall. So, when she said, "I hope he never comes back," it wasn't anger. It was understanding, and that broke me. After the party, I sat in the car for what felt like hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly I couldn't feel my fingers. Her words replayed again and again. Each time they cut deeper, not because she was wrong, but because she was right. I wasn't mad at him anymore. I was mad at myself, for waiting, for hoping, for letting the idea of him define the kind of love I thought I deserved. The first year after the divorce, I told myself I was fine. I filled my days with work, buried myself in cases and paperwork, in other people's pain. Being a paralegal at a family law firm, ironic, isn't it, meant I spent my days watching people walk away from love, then come home to the ghost of my own failed marriage. Every couple I helped reminded me of us. The way they shouted, the way they cried, the way they begged for fairness in a world that doesn't offer it, and yet I couldn't let go, because letting go meant admitting I was alone. But Amelia, she learned faster than I did. She learned to smile even when it hurt. She learned to laugh at the word father, like it was just another character in a story she didn't care to finish. And that night, her 14th birthday, was when I realized something terrifying. My daughter had healed from a wound I still refused to touch. When we got home, she ran upstairs with her gifts, humming softly to herself. I sat by the kitchen window, staring out into the dark street, and whispered, "Why am I still waiting for you?" The house didn't answer. It never does. But sometimes I swear, I can still hear the sound of his footsteps, fading away down that hallway. That night, I opened the box I'd hidden for years. His last letter, his wedding ring, a photo of the 3 of us at the beach, before everything changed. I don't know why I kept them. Maybe because I thought one day I'd need proof that he was real. But as I held that photo, something inside me cracked. Not like glass, not sharp and sudden, but like ice, slow, quiet, inevitable. And beneath it I found something I hadn't felt in a long time. Anger. Not rage. Not bitterness. But a cold, quiet anger at myself for building my life around the absence of a man who never looked back. I went to bed that night with my heart pounding and my mind replaying Amelia's toast. And for the first time I whispered to myself, she's right. I don't want him back either. But the truth is, healing doesn't begin the moment you stop loving someone. It begins the moment you forgive yourself for still wanting to. And that was where my story really began. That night became the turning point. The quiet before a storm I didn't know was coming. Because the next day, I walked into my office and sitting across from me, filing for divorce, was the man who once promised he'd never leave. My ex-husband, representing his new wife, and suddenly, all those years of silence had something to say. The moment I saw him sitting there, every sound in the office faded. The laughter from my co-workers, the ring of the phones, the clicking of keyboards, it all dissolved into a kind of silence that presses against your chest. He was older. His hair was grayer, his eyes duller, but that same familiar nervous smile, the one that used to undo me in seconds, was still there, and next to him sat a woman. Younger than me, pretty, in the way new beginnings often look. She held her hands together tightly, her wedding band catching the light as she avoided my eyes. He looked at me, startled, uncertain, and for a brief second, I could almost hear the echo of our past. The promises, the laughter, the night he said, "You're my forever." But now, we were just two strangers separated by years and signatures. My boss's voice broke through the silence. "Amelia," he said, my name sharp, professional. "This is Mr. Thomas and his wife. They're here to discuss their case. You'll be assisting with their divorce." The universe has a cruel sense of humor. I nodded, holding my breath. "Of course," I said softly, my voice trembling despite my best efforts. He wouldn't look at me. He kept his gaze fixed on the papers, his hands folded neatly, as if pretending I was just another face in an endless line of legal meetings. But I could feel it, that old pull, that invisible thread that still tied me to him, even after all these years. As the meeting went on, his wife spoke first. Her voice was calm but strained. "He hasn't been home in months," she said. "I don't want to fight. I just want it to end." My boss nodded, jotting notes, asking questions, but I couldn't stop watching him. The way his shoulders sank lower with every word, the way his hands tightened around the pen until his knuckles turned white. When it was his turn, he spoke quietly. "I didn't mean for it to get this far," he said, barely above a whisper. My heart clenched, because those were the exact same words he'd said to me the day before he left. For a second, it wasn't the law firm anymore. It was our kitchen table. It was the morning sunlight on his face. It was me begging him to stay. But now, I just sat there taking notes, pretending to be someone who didn't once love him enough to lose herself. After they left, I went to the restroom, locked the door, and leaned against the cold wall. I couldn't cry, not yet. It was like my tears were stuck somewhere between who I was and who I had become. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the broken woman who waited for him anymore. I saw someone standing in the ashes, still breathing. Still here. That night I came home late. Amelia was asleep on the couch, her textbook scattered around her. The TV was playing some old movie, the kind she knew I loved. She always left them on when she missed me. I sat down beside her, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and whispered, "I saw him today." She stirred a little but didn't wake. Her small hand brushed against mine, and in that moment, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. The next few weeks I had to see him again. And again, each time it got easier. The pain dulled. The memories softened. And somewhere between the signatures and legal documents, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. He wasn't my forever. He was just a chapter I had outgrown. One evening, he stayed after the meeting. Everyone else had gone. The office was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner. He stood near my desk, shifting uncomfortably. "I didn't know you worked here," he said finally. I smiled faintly. "I didn't know you'd come back." He laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. That same old habit. "I guess life has a funny way of catching up." "Or maybe," I said softly, "it just reminds us of the things we never made peace with." He looked at me then. Really looked. And for the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't guilt or pride. It was regret. He took a deep breath. "I heard about Amelia," he said. She's grown so much." "She has," I replied. "You'd be proud. But you don't get to be." He nodded slowly, his eyes glistening. "I know," he said, "and I'll live with that." There was a silence that stretched between us, heavy but freeing. For so long I'd dreamed of this moment, the apology, the explanation, the closure. But standing there, I realized I didn't need it anymore. I didn't need him to tell me why, because I'd already answered it myself. He left because he didn't know how to stay, and I stayed because I didn't know how to leave, until now. That night, I went home, made tea, and opened a new journal. On the first page, I wrote 3 words, "No more waiting," and I meant it. Days turned into weeks. Spring melted into summer, and life, quietly, gently, began to bloom again. I started going for walks in the morning. I laughed more, smiled more. I even began painting again, something I hadn't done since before the divorce. Each brushstroke felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. But the real transformation came the night Amelia walked into my room, holding an old photo. It was of her father, holding her as a baby. "Do you ever miss him?" she asked. I thought for a moment. "Sometimes," I said, "but I think I miss who I was when I loved him more than I miss him." She nodded slowly, her eyes thoughtful. "Do you hate him?" "No," I whispered, "because hating someone means they still have power over you." She smiled softly and handed me the photo. "Then maybe it's time to let him go for good." That night, we burned the photo in the backyard, together. The flames flickered, golden and quiet, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel pain watching it turn to ash. I felt free, and as the firelight danced across Amelia's face, I realized she wasn't the only one growing up. I was too, but peace, true peace, has a way of testing you. And just when I thought I'd finally found mine, he came back one last time. This time, not for me, but for forgiveness. That meeting would change everything, because the moment he said, "I never stopped loving you," was the same moment I finally knew what love was, and what it wasn't. He showed up at my office one afternoon, unannounced, uninvited, and yet somehow expected. It was raining outside, the kind of gentle, steady rain that makes the world feel smaller, quieter. I remember the way the light hit his face when he walked in, a little older, a little heavier, and carrying something behind his eyes I couldn't quite name. He didn't smile. He just stood there for a second, dripping water onto the carpet, and said softly, "Do you have a minute?" I should have said no, but closure has a strange pull, like a door that creaks open even when you thought you locked it years ago. So, I nodded. We walked to the conference room. It was empty, the hum of the rain against the windows filling the silence between us. He placed an envelope on the table. "I wanted you to have this," he said quietly. I didn't reach for it. I didn't want to touch anything that still carried his name. He sighed. "It's a letter," he said. "I wrote it years ago but never sent it. Maybe I thought I didn't deserve to." His voice cracked at the last word. For the first time, I looked at him. Really looked. His hands trembled slightly, his tie was crooked, and his eyes looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "You don't have to read it," he continued. I needed you to have it. For me to be able to move on." I almost laughed. Move on. How easy that sounded after years of being the one left behind. He hesitated, then said the words I never thought I'd hear again. "I'm sorry." The room fell silent again, but it wasn't the same kind of silence as before. This one was full, heavy. alive. "I'm sorry for everything," he said again. "For leaving, for the lies, for not being there for her, for you." For a long moment, I didn't respond, because sometimes the only thing heavier than pain is the forgiveness we're not ready to give. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm. "You don't get to apologize now and erase what happened." "I know," he whispered, "but I had to try." He looked down at his hands, then back at me. "I saw her," he said softly. "Amelia, she's beautiful. She looks just like you." My heart clenched. He hadn't seen her in nearly 6 years. He didn't know her laugh anymore. Didn't know the way she scrunched her nose when she was thinking hard. Didn't know the sound of her voice when she said, "Mom, I'm proud of you." "You don't get to say her name like that," I said quietly. "Not after what you did." He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I know," he said again. "But I had to tell you. I miss her. Every single day." There was something in his voice, raw, broken, stripped of ego. For a brief moment, I saw the man he once was, the man I once loved, and the man he could have been, if he hadn't walked away. He stood up slowly, leaving the envelope on the table. "I'll go," he said softly. "Just please tell her I'm sorry." As he walked toward the door, I felt the strangest thing. Not anger, not sadness, just release. He had finally said the words I'd been waiting to hear, but they no longer had power over me. That night, I sat in bed with the unopened envelope on my lap. The rain still whispered against the window, steady and forgiving. I thought about opening it, about reading his words, seeing his heart spilled across the page. But I didn't, because I didn't need to anymore. The next morning, I took the envelope outside, tore it gently, and threw it into the trash bin. It wasn't out of hate, it was out of peace. Later that day, Amelia came home from school. She seemed quiet, lost in thought. When I asked her what was wrong, she hesitated before saying, "Someone came to see me." My chest tightened. "Who?" She looked down. "Dad." The word felt foreign in the air. She continued, her voice trembling slightly. "He waited outside the gate, said he just wanted to say hi." I didn't know what to do, so I listened. "What did he say?" I asked softly. She shrugged, trying to act indifferent, but her eyes betrayed her. "He said he was sorry, that he wished things were different." I nodded slowly, waiting. "And what did you say?" She looked up at me, her eyes steady and old for her age. I told him I used to wait for him. Every birthday, every school event. I used to think he'd come back. My heart ached at the quiet truth in her voice. "But now," she said, "I realized I don't need him to come back." "Because you did. You always did." That was the moment, the exact second. I felt something break and heal inside me at once. I reached for her hand and pulled her close. She smelled like shampoo and sunlight, and in that embrace, I knew that no man's absence could ever make me feel incomplete again, because I was whole, and so was she. Weeks passed. Life found its rhythm again, gentle, honest, simple. Amelia started volunteering at a local shelter. I began teaching art classes on weekends, and one evening as I watched her paint, her laughter echoing through the room, I realized this was our redemption. Not loud, not dramatic, just quietly, beautifully earned. Months later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from him, but this time it wasn't addressed to me. It was for Amelia. She read it, her eyes scanning every line with a stillness that only comes from understanding. When she finished, she folded it neatly and set it aside. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked. She shook her head. "No," she said. "I just hope he finds peace." And I smiled, because in that moment, my daughter became everything I hoped she'd be. Kind, strong, and free. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about how far we'd come. From the nights of crying into my pillow, to the mornings when hope felt like a lie, to this, peace, soft, quiet, real. I thought about the little girl who once wished her father would come home, and the woman she'd become, who no longer needed him to, And maybe that's what healing really is. Not erasing the story, but accepting it, and choosing to keep living anyway. I looked out the window one last time. The rain had stopped. The moonlight pooled gently on the floor, and I whispered to myself, almost like a prayer, I hope he never comes back. Not out of bitterness, but because we finally didn't need him to, because we had already come home, to ourselves.